You can animate pretty much everything in Control, but today we'll focus on animating typography. I'll show you how you can animate properties like scale or size of your type, or color, or word spacing, or even mixing different properties when you animate. So first, let's start with size. I want to use this little block here, and I want its size to be increased on scroll. By the way, all animations today will be scroll based, which means they will be triggered by scrolling your website. So I want this bit to increase to the right. So to do that, I have to be sure that my anchor point is in the bottom left corner. You see it can be in the middle by default, or it can be like here or anywhere else on this little anchor point map. So here I'm selecting my type, and I have to right click the scale input, just like that, to add a keyframe, then scroll a bit just to define the area of my animation, and then create another keyframe like that, and set the property just like that. So now if you scroll, your type will be increasing respectively. And you can control the speed of animation by dragging those keyframes on your timeline, pretty much like you might have used to do in After Effects or any other app that uses timeline-based animation. So if I would do like that, you see my animation will be slower, or I can do like that, and it will be very, very, very slow. Let's move it back right here to be faster. So second is cover. For cover, the same. I have to define a starting point of my animation, which can be right now. And to do that, I have to right click the cover input and click Add Keyframe. So the starting point is defined. Let's define the end point right here. Let's create another keyframe here and choose a different color. We can use a color picker for that, and for example select this color. That's it, our animation is complete. Now you see the color will be changed, and it will go through all the spectrum from color 1 to color 2. Number 3, I'll go here to the word spacing, and that's a fun little feature in Control. I'll show you how to use it. So I also have to define my starting point, which can be right here, and I'll select the word spacing input right here, and I'll add a keyframe number 1, and let's say here we can have keyframe number 2. And for this case, we'll reverse the animation. So our default state will be state number 2, and state number 1 will just change to be something like that, for example. Now, as you might see, as you scroll, your text is animatable, and you can use this feature in many different cases and experiment with it and mix it with other features. And speaking about the mixing, let's do the animation number 4. Let's mix rotation and scale for this letter C. So to do that, let's find the rotation input right here. Let's right click it. We define it as start. One little tip, instead of creating second keyframe, you can just input a number here, and the second keyframe will be created automatically. So in our case, we'll rotate our C 360 degrees. And let's also add a scale animation. So we can press this little arrow to go back to the step number 1. Here we can add a scaling keyframe. Then we can, by using this little arrow, we can navigate to the step number 2 of rotation and create second scale keyframe. Then we can go back and change our scaling to this, for example. And as you might see, it scales from the center because the anchor point is in the middle. Now let's see how that works. You see, we just combined rotation and scale for our type. You can animate pretty much every setting in your settings panel right here, and you can also mix them and combine them as you want. Those were animating type basics in Control.